MongoDB is a document-oriented database that fits into the family of NoSQL databases. In this video, we will learn how to establish a connection from JavaScript through Node.js to a MongoDB database. This is through the new MongoDB NodeJS driver. Okay, and then we're gonna learn about very basic stuff. How can you insert, update, delete, and find documents on this MongoDB database. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Hussein, and in this channel we discuss all sorts of software engineering by example. So if you want to become a better software engineer, consider subscribing and the bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. This is not the only kind of videos we do. We talk about software engineering concepts as well, right? Like proxies, load balancing, and all that stuff, right? TCP, UDP, HTTP, how everything works, right? Anything that software engineering particularly interests me. That's it. Let's just jump into this video, guys. So here's the agenda. Here's what we're going to discuss in this video. And the reason I always start with an agenda is for you guys, because I value your time and I know you guys are busy. So what you see is here, and is you're going to start seeing jump codes to jump into the time code of the video that you're interested in for the topic you're interested in, right? So you're gonna start seeing this. If I'm a decent editor, you should start seeing these pop up right now, right? So spin up a MongoDB single database. So that's the first thing we need to do, right? Obviously we cannot start this video without a MongoDB database. So that's the first thing we're gonna learn how to do. We're gonna spin up my own MongoDB database using Docker, because that's the easiest way. We discussed this many times. I made a dedicated video about this, by the way, guys. I'm gonna reference that if you're interested to know, but I'm gonna assume that you know how to do that. I'm gonna spin up that container that have my MongoDB database, and then I'm gonna start writing code, Visual Studio Code, to consume this database from Node.js. So I'm gonna start writing JavaScript code. I'm gonna install the driver, npm, and all that jazz. Right. The first thing we're gonna do is find stuff. So we're gonna open the database. Once we establish, we're gonna open the database. We're gonna list the collections, and then after that, we're gonna find some rows or documents in that, I think it's the employees table that we have here, and then print it up as a nice table. And then we're gonna learn how to insert a document, how we're gonna learn how to update a document. We're gonna also learn how to delete. So very basic stuff. So let's use this video as your kind of resource for things. And obviously the MongoDB help is very, very, very useful. So I'm gonna reference it below in the description so you go and run with it essentially, right? That's it. Let's just jump into the video. First thing we wanted to do is essentially we want to start a database, right? And I have a container here called MDB that has the MongoDB database listening on port 27017. I think that's the default MongoDB, right? So if I do docker start MDB, right, it's gonna start my container, okay? And this is starting and listening by default on port 27017, okay? So if I wanted to start another database, just let's do it for fun. I'm gonna start another database called MDB1, and that will be listening on port 27017. So in order to do that, you can do docker run -p, then you specify the port 27017, 27017, and then --name MDB1, and then Mongo, right? So what we want to do is here is this part, right? The highlight part that I'm highlighting right now. This is the source container port, and it has to be 27017. That's what Mongo defaultly run on. This is what you want to expose to the public, which is not public, but my host machine, in order to consume that stuff, right? And by default is 27017, right? Which is gonna fail because I already have MDB. The first one is listening on that port. So I'm gonna say 27018, okay? And then let's start that container, okay? So we have now two containers running. MDB running on 27017, and the second one is running 27017. And you can pick any port you want, guys, by the way, as long as it's above 1024, because anything below that is an administrator port. Okay, so let's go to the code and start connecting to this thing. How about that, guys? All right, what do you need? Make sure you have Node.js installed latest and greatest, because we're gonna need to do finally and all that stuff. So make sure to have the latest, right? Otherwise you're gonna get some errors. right? I'm gonna mention which version of I even forgot what version of Node I'm using. But Visual Studio Code, best editor ever, right? It's very easy to use, right? Once you install it, you can run it on Mac, Windows, or Linux. That's pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and create a brand new folder. This will be essentially our project. So we're gonna go ahead and go to my JavaScript folder, and let's go to JavaScript Playground. And by the way, the code will be available, guys, for you on the GitHub. I'm gonna reference that in the description, right? So I'm gonna create a new folder here, and let's call it MongoDB.js, right? Brand new folder, just a folder. And here's the first thing we're gonna do. As always, we're gonna create a new index.js file, right? And that will be our JavaScript code. And then since we created a new JS file, we really need to initialize npm. So I'm gonna start a new terminal right there. And then all we have to do is just do npm init initialize -y. That means just shut up, I know what I'm doing. Just create a package.json for me so I can start seeing all these debug packages and all that stuff, right? We can install installing stuff. And that's it. It just created it for us, right? And it called it MongoDB.js. We'll come to that, right? What do we need to first write code at? Okay, the first thing we need to do is import that MongoDB driver that we talked about. Okay, it doesn't come by default on your machine. So what do you need to do? Let's check, by the way, what node version do I have? I have version 11.11. So anything this version or above that, you'll be good. Okay, guys. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a constant variable, which is kind of contradictory. Constant variable. I'm gonna call it Mongo client equal require MongoDB. Very easy to remember, unlike the Python. Remember, guys, the Python library, the Python Postgres, right? Psycho, PG2. Oh my God, it was just so hard to remember. So MongoDB is very easy to remember this library, right? It's not Mongoose. We're not going to use Mongoose. We're going to use this standard stuff, right? Because we like standard. So here's what you can do. You can do this, the Mongo client. That will give you the Mongo client, which is after which we're going to create an object from that Mongo client, and then we start connecting to the database. This is one way of doing it. The fancier way of doing it is doing it this way, okay? That's the fancy way of doing it. This is equivalent to essentially this, right? This is exactly the same. So if you saw some people do it this way, that means the variable name has to exist as a property in here, okay? Up to you guys, either works, okay? So that's the third, okay? Let's create the client class, okay? The class, this is not the actual object. So here's what we're gonna do, okay? Let's create a function called connect. And this is a beautiful library because it uses a promise-based library, and that's beautiful because we like promises. We don't like passing callbacks, right? So we can use that, and because we're using promises, you have two approaches. You use the then catch finally, or you can use the async await. I prefer the async await, right? But some people prefer then catch, so it's up to you. But I'm gonna explain here how to do it in async await. So each function has to do async. You have to be an async function and await. I made a video about async await and promises, guys. If you find this like you're lost between all these things, go watch that video. I'm gonna reference it here. Okay, guys. Okay, I'm gonna make a function called connect, and that will connect to our database. Well, here's what you need to do. First thing, you have to do a try catch. You have to. If you're doing await, you have to catch your unhandled promises. So you do catch, and let's do exception, and then let's do console.error in case if anything happened. Let's say something bad happened, right? Then you can just do ex, just print that thing. Another way is to do this, right? Really up to you guys. I'm giving you different approaches of doing things. And then you have to do finally. Finally is very important, guys. Okay, just a little bit for those who don't know. Try, if there is an error, is gonna catch here, right? It will be trapped here. finally is a clause that will always get executed whether the try succeeded or it has been cached, right? So it is very useful to usually close connections and all that stuff. So let's start, guys. Let's establish a connection. How about that? The first thing we need to do is just to create a client, right? And to do a client, you do new client, right? But which client? The one we just got. You can do that. And if you pass in, this is expecting, that's what the beautiful Visual Studio Code, it just tells you what to do. You expect a URI, which is a string. And that string is, guess what, guys? It is nothing but the connection to my database. And this is what we want to do here. So I'm going to create a variable called URI here. And then it's called MongoDB. That's essentially the protocol for Mongo, right? It looks like that. The server, which is localhost, and then what's the port number? 27017, because I have it running. Remember, guys? And I also have a 2708. We're gonna connect to both now. Okay, let's connect to this guy, URI, and let's pass in the URI here. Then let's just connect. Let's see what happened. So there's a method on the client called client.connect, right? And since this method expects a promise back, right? You need to use await, okay? And then let's just do ahead and just connect. There's a lot of properties that you can pass, but we're not gonna talk about it. We just wanna connect to the database, right? And my database is open, doesn't have any credentials or usernames or anything, right? So, which is pretty bad, but we're testing, it's a tutorial, so it gives you the idea, right? Await, client to connect, and this is the key here, guys. You're connecting, this could fail, okay? Or subsequent calls here could fail on the try. So here's what you need to do. Always make it a habit to close your connection, because that's a TCP socket, right? Because what you do essentially when you connect, you establish a three-way handshake, and after that you'll have a stateful TCP connection, and you need to maintain that connection and clean after yourself if something bad happened, right? Usually the operating system pretty good at doing this thing, but you are a good programmer, you're a good software engineer, so you need to understand what's going on, right? So this is establish a TCP connection. Now I have this connection, I have this client as a connection. So what can I do with this guy? You can do many things. You can ask for the database, right? Which is a database I have the name of, and the name of the database here is called Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt. Okay, that's the database name. Okay, once you do that, you can do constant db equal database, and you can get that database immediately. Okay, let's see, what does this return? This returns immediately the database name for you. So this doesn't return a promise, so you don't have to do an await on it, okay? So we have the database name. Let's just print it. Log connected to database and db, I think it's called database name. That's a cool thing. Just autocomplete for you. IntelliSense, babes. All right, how about we have this, and if you notice, this is a little bit light colored. That means I never called it, right? So let's go ahead and call this thing. And we can run it by using start and debug. And connect to the database. Thunderbolt, that's the printed database name. A little bit boring, right? We'll do some fancier stuff, guys. Let's connect to the other database, 8, okay? And if I connect to 8, you can see that what happens here is also I was successful because it exists. But here's the thing about MongoDB. It connects you to the database. Even though the database doesn't exist, it will create it for you. So you have to really be careful what you're doing there, okay? So that connected to 1.8, you can just change that database name and just will work, right? So let's connect to something that doesn't exist, 19. I know that 19 doesn't exist. So I'm going to get yelled at real hard right now. There you go. Mongo network failure. It says it couldn't find that port. Okay, so that's essentially what you need to do, guys. Let's go back to our my own database. Okay, at the database, you can start creating tables and all that stuff, right? I'm gonna reference that video that we did and we created all the tables. So this database have a database called Thunderbolt. This instance have a database called Thunderbolt, It has a table called employees, but how can I find out? Well, stay tuned, guys. We're gonna find out. So here's the thing. I am going to get the collections. Give me all the tables you have, son. db.collections. That's the method. And if I do this, what does this return? This returns a promise. And what do we do with promises? We await them, right? And when we await the promises, you get back a collection. And then what we're gonna do is collection.forEach. Just go ahead and print all the collections. We can do like either console.log, right? This will just essentially print everything. That's one way. Or you can get a C, which is the variable name, which is the console.log, c.collection name. Look at how beautiful Visual Studio Code is, guys. Isn't that amazing? So let's go ahead and print that collection, right? We have only employees. That's the only thing we have, all right? Okay, all right, so we have employees, we have the name. Let's go ahead and, we don't need that anymore. So I'm gonna comment it out for you guys, but you can see it, okay? Get the collections. You can do it this way, just for you guys to take that code. Here's the thing, I want to get now the employees table, right? How do you do that? db.collection1 without the S, right? And then you pass in employees. I want the table that's called employees. And what do we do with this, right? What I can do with this, you can print the name, which is kind of useless, but I want to do the first thing. Find. Let's find something. Give me all the records on this employee table. How do we do that? There's a method called find. There's find one, find and delete, and find and replace, and all that stuff. But we're interested in find. And find will, if you don't pass it anything, it's gonna tell you everything, which is pretty expensive. So you have to know what's going on here. But let's talk about cursors. What's happening here now? Okay. This returns what? It returns a cursor, and the cursor is actually immediately got back to you. Okay. So let's get that cursor. And to do that, let's go to this search cursor, okay? And if I do this, I'm gonna get back a cursor. And that cursor is very interesting. If I do an await on this cursor, and they say, okay, give me that cursor, and then you know what? Just print search cursor dot has next. I don't want to print much information. Right? And just let's put a debug point this time and then run. Let's see what we get back. If I run this now, right, we get the search cursor. Let's go ahead and execute that. We got the result back. And then here's the thing. If we print that, you can see that we got back a promise. That is so powerful, guys. Okay. What happened here is our problem is we executed has next, but has next actually returned a promise. That's the problem. So we need to await on that thing. Right? We forgot to await on the has next. So let's go ahead and execute it again and see what will happen. Print that, get the cursor. What do we get? Look at this cursor. And then we're going to talk about what cursors are now, guys. Okay, and let's go ahead and print it. And we can see that we got back true. That means there are some results. Let's talk about cursor a little bit. And you can see, guys, execute immediately, finally, and closes that connection, just kills it, right? We have to learn how to do this all the time. All right, search cursors. What's happening here, and I think what's going on is when you get back a cursor, that cursor is a server-side cursor. And we talked about server-side and client-side cursors at one point. What happens here is that cursor is executed on the server, and assume that they are not in the same machine. Your client, which is the code where we're writing now, in the database, execute the cursor on the database, and they create a cursor for you there. That's why they give you an ability to, I hate this word, but stream the content of the cursor. So on demand, because it's an expensive operation, I'm gonna only pull data if you ask me. How do you do that? You ask this question essentially. So if I do while await has next, if this has anything, go ahead and print await search cursor dot next. So go ahead and print me that document. And essentially, I'm walking through that cursor. That's what I'm doing right now. So let's go ahead and execute and see what happened. Okay, do that, and then ask, and then get it printed, right? Oh, we got a result. SSN, Hussein, all right? That's the first one. Employee, the second one. Go ahead and print John, Rick, and Hussein 3. I tested a lot on this one. Okay, so you see, guys, we're looping through this, and every time we're doing this loop, we're going back to the server, executing, and getting back a result. So underneath, MongoDB might be doing some caching and pulling this on advance for you. Okay, but what is happening here is actually you're pulling it on demand. Hey, every time you next, you go to the server through the TCP socket and ask for the result. And here's an alternative way of doing this. Okay, there's one way. Okay, which is kind of the streamy model, if you want to, right? I know it's a bad word. You kind of pull on demand from the server. Okay, and the other way, which a lot of people do, which is kind of bad, is this: search cursor dot toArray. And toArray also returns a promise. Okay, and what you do essentially is just, hey, give me result equal await, and just await the whole thing. You know what? Just build everything into a beautiful array so I can loop through it the way I do, right? And then how do you loop through an array? We know it's forEach, right? That's very easy. And we can just do r console.log r. So that's another way of doing it. So let's explain what's happening here in this case. If I do that, await, because this is expensive. This line is huge. It is expensive because it's gotta pull everything and pull it to the client and build that array. Okay. Obviously, I have four rows, so it doesn't matter. But you, as a software engineer, you need to understand what you're doing. Okay. Result, we got back a beautiful array. Go ahead and just print everything, and we just, we got everything. Okay. Because we're fancy, guys. Because we fancy, we like to do fancy things. You can do console.table, and that's the console API. If you pass it this, it will detect that it looks like a table and will print that table for you. Isn't that neat? Isn't that neatish, guys? That's pretty coolish, huh? Isn't that coolish? That is coolish, guys. Look at Barbara. Two Barbara S's we have with a beautiful SSN. That's a great SSN. 1, 2, 4. All right. So that's how you search, essentially, guys. We learned how to search arrays, right? You can loop by one, right? Here's the thing, guys. You shouldn't really do this. This is bad. You shouldn't just do an unbounded query to pull everything, right? You're pulling essentially everything, because that's why you might be forgiven if you're doing this approach, which is like you're pulling it one by one, but you really aren't. You should really do paging, okay? Or how about we search with a filter? We didn't do that. Let's do that. I am going to search and find everybody that named Hussein, okay? And that's how you do it. In the find, you can pass an object, and you pass in the key, which is the name here, and then you can say Hussein. Let's say, hey, find me the guys who are named Hussein. Then if you do that, woo, you can see you got back, right? It's an exact match, right? Essentially. Beautiful. So we got that. That's another way of searching a specific thing. Okay. So I'm gonna comment this out for you guys, but I'm gonna keep this running. Okay. So I still want to print everything. Sweet. This is printing everything, guys. Right? Make sure it's working. Okay, printing everything. All right, let's talk about inserts. How about that, guys? Inserts. How do we insert? So let's zoom in here. Insert into the DB, into the collection. In order to do that, if I can spell collection right, you have to do the table employees.insert. And here's the thing. You can insert many at the same time. You can insert one. Okay. I like to use this because most of the time you can insert in batch. It's recommended, right? You send one JSON object through the wire, and then that object will be taken and then deserialized and then shoved into Mongo, right? And here's what we're gonna do. It's an array because it's insert many. What? Give me names, guys. Let's insert this guy, two guys or two gals, right? Let them be gals. Name. Here's the thing about MongoDB, right, guys? You know that it's a schema-less, so you can invent columns and they will just be created for you. They are not really created columns, but just they're there. Okay, that's why it's called document. It's not schema. There's no schema per se. But if I call this guy, well, I'm just like thinking about names, and his SSN number is 999, and there's no DOB, date of birth, but let's add another guy here, name, and this is Anna, okay, and then SSN 998. It's beautiful SSN, social security number, just 3 characters, because why not? Here's what we're gonna do. We're inserting many, but again, insert is what? It's going through a wire, so it's gonna take a long time. So you better return a promise, so you better await it. And then here, it's up to you really, but it's recommended to do like an insert cursor and catch that into a cursor. That's also a cursor, by the way, guys. It gives you back cursor that tells you like how many it was inserted and all that stuff, right? Console.log, you can say, hey, I inserted, by the way, 1 because the second one failed or whatever, right? So let's go ahead and debug and let's see what will happen. Print, and looks like we succeeded. Now we printed before inserting those guys, right? And then look at that. Now I'm gonna print that we inserted 2. Let's run it again. Will and Anna better be there. Look at that. Will and Anna are there. Nice. Right. Beautiful. So we forgot to set a date of birth for Will and Anna. How do we do that, guys? We essentially, let's comment this because we don't want to insert them every time, essentially. Right. Let's do an update, guys. Update. So here's how we do it. Employees. Same thing, because we have the collection, dot, update, 1 or many. Let's do update 1. And to update 1, you need to tell me what do you want, right, to update. So that's a search. And to search, you pass in, I want to search by name, and the guy name is Will. You can search by name. You can search by SSN, right? Here is where you become you wear the hat of a DBA and see, like, if you're searching on a specific field, you better create an index on it, right? So it's just like create an index, even like a primary index or like a unique index, so you don't like duplicate SSNs and so on, right? You can do that. So if you're searching a lot on the name, maybe an index will be valuable, right? Okay, once we search that, here's the interesting thing, and this is what took me a while to understand, right? So the second portion is what are you gonna update, and here's how it works, right? You do a $set. You set the object and you specify what you want to set. What keys do you want to set? I want to set the DOB, which is date of birth, to be I don't know, 1970. Is that what Wordsmith were born? I think. Let's do this so you can guys read, right? I'm bad at this. I'm sorry, guys. Right, but essentially that should do the trick, right? Again, await, const update cursor. You get the result, and you can just like do console.log.matched count and modified count, right? You can just like, hey, I modified blah, right? This much updated. Let's see if this works, right? I think it's called $set. If I'll apologize if that's incorrect. We printed it. We're gonna update it. We're gonna say, hey, it did update. All right. So now, as you can see, the table doesn't have Will's date of birth, but now if I run it again, it better be. Look at that. That is beautiful, guys. Will Smith has a date now, and we can obviously update it all the time. Okay, beautiful stuff, guys. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And you can update money as well, right? But just going through the basics, guys, essentially. That's what I want to do, guys. Because, right, there's so much to discuss here, and I can't possibly go through this in an hour, right? Let's do the delete. Final one, I think, right? We did an insert, find, yeah, almost done. All right, so we will do delete one. We made a mistake by adding Anna, right? We're gonna delete her. Do I have to search by name? No, you can delete by SSN. It's okay, you can search by SSN. 998, is that it? Like 998, I wanna delete Anna, okay? Anna, and we don't have to do any of that stuff. And then delete cursor. What does delete cursor have? Visual Studio Code. Tell us, delete count. Isn't that beautiful, guys? It just pulls and IntelliSense the schlack out of everything. I don't want to swear. I don't want this video to get demonetized. Okay, so delete cursor, delete count. Let's do this. Let's delete Anna. Bye. Bye-bye, Anna. Anna. Delete. What? It did not work. I know why. Can you spot what it was? I exactly know what's going on, guys. Can you spot what I did wrong here, guys? Right? Can you spot? I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to think. Right? It's literally on the screen. It's literally on the screen, guys. So it didn't work. The delete didn't work. So why? Because I passed in a string, and that failed because there is no SSN with a string 998. There is an SSN with a number 998. That is totally different. Databases usually do not do implicit conversion. If they do, it's pretty bad because it can cause full table scans, and you do not want that. Okay? So let's try that now. Let's try that now. Bye, Anna. And then now let's search. Hopefully I don't get embarrassed now. Should work. Delete again, and that was deleted. And I just ran it twice, so that's why you can see no more Anna, guys. No more Anna. All right, guys, that's it for me today. I don't know if this video, how long this video was. Hopefully you enjoyed the length of this video, guys. But essentially, I wanted to talk about transaction, but that thing is a different beast. Believe me, guys. There is all sorts of read concern, read preferences, and then write concerns, and I kind of understood what's going on there. But to make a video, I need to set up the environment, and that was painful, right? So I thought, you know what? Let's not make a replica set and confuse people. Let's make a single MongoDB first. Learn the basics. Once we learn the basic, we can jump in and do a MongoDB clusters and then do a replica set and talk about all that beautiful stuff on another video. But that's it, guys. That's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it, right? Subscribe, give that like button, share this with your friend. Leave a comment if you like it or you disliked it. It says, hey, Hussein, you suck because you don't know anything. And I love it, guys, because it's always room for improvement. Believe me, there is no one perfect, all right? We're keeping learning, okay? If I miss anything, guys, do tell me in the comment section. What did I miss? What do you want to see next? What do you want to see next, right? I'm going to reference the doc for MongoDB. It's a pretty cool doc, right, guys? That's it, right? You guys stay awesome. Gonna see you in the next one. Bye.